All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So everybody knows what happened yesterday, right? The 13-8 loss at home to the Atlanta Falcons, right? At the time, a sub 500 team at 5-6, who were also 1-4 on the road. We lose 13-8 with special teams and defense providing all 8 points. So another wasted Sunday, another wasted defensive performance, another wasted special teams performance, another colossal waste. That's really what it comes down to. Another colossal waste. And, we can go through the numbers. I really don't even want to dive into the game that much. I was, infuriated yesterday. But to quickly summarize, 3 turnovers, another game where we had multiple turnovers, 2 for 15 on third downs, another horrendous day in a stat that I feel like can't get any worse at this point, but yet it continues to get worse. We had 5 points at halftime. Again, none of those points provided by the offense. 11 penalties for 71 yards. That's pretty much, it's essentially a free football field if you think about a team taking, a touchback, 71 plus 25. Like that's a lot of free yards, 71 free yards, man. And then CBS Sports came out and said that the Jets actually have 10 offensive touchdowns in 12 games this season. That number is a complete joke, and it's actually the fewest by any offense in the last 30 years in the National Football League. And it makes me ask the question, why does it seem like everybody can recognize, everybody can look and identify that the Jets have massive issues, massive problems on the offensive side of the football, but it's everybody, fans of other teams, right? Other teams' coaches, players around the league, media members, insiders, everybody can recognize these issues except for the Jets. And I'm watching the Salah press. I had to wait until this morning to watch the Salah press conference because I didn't want to hear more of the same stuff, right? Self-inflicted wounds, this and that. And there was, at one point, it kind of was weird, right? It felt like a movie or something, just a totally weird moment. He was asked about Garrett Wilson, right? Because there were times where Garrett Wilson was open, but, the quarterbacks weren't getting him Tim Boyle wasn't getting him the football early on. And he paused. And so he was asked, like, why, Garrett's open. Why wasn't he getting the football? He paused, smiled. The smiling is the weirdest part of this whole thing. Like, he paused, smiled, and said that he would have a better answer for him tomorrow, meaning today. So we'll see, what transpires there. But that's such a strange kind of reaction after losing 5 straight games, after losing at home to a sub 500 team, 13-8, experiencing the same exact offensive problems week after week after week. Nothing changes, nothing gets done, no urgency, nobody cares, no accountability. And Robert Saleh has this smile when asked about Garrett. Isn't that weird? Like, I can't be the only one that finds that weird. But the point of this video, if you didn't think there was enough drama, right? That it seems like that Zack Wilson could potentially be back in the starting lineup. That's not guaranteed. That's not for sure. I guess with this team, anything is up in the air. But in the press conference yesterday, Saleh did say, or did allude to the fact that Wilson is always in consideration to be a starter or be the starter for the Jets. And, I'm kind of thinking about it. Yeah, Zach Wilson's obviously better than Tim Boyle. But will it do Zach any good? This entire... Oh, and then another thing too. Zack Rosenblatt comes out this morning and says that, he's getting the sense that the Jets could give the starting nod back to Zach as soon as this week. My problems aren't with Zach Wilson. My right now, we know who Zach is. My problems aren't necessarily with Tim Boyle. We know who he is. My problems, first off, let's just talk about the coaching staff. This kind of goes back to the point, we were making before, in previous videos, especially on podcasts, where, it just seems like the Jets are just, there's no plan. There's no rhyme or reason to what they're doing. They're just trying new stuff. They're throwing stuff to the wall and seeing what sticks. And this leaks into play calls, where it really seems like Hackett will look at the play sheet and say, "We'll try this one. Does it work? Nope. How about this one? Maybe this one can work. Nope. How about this one?" It just seems like it's a guessing game. And so the fact that we had no answers the entire season and pretty much had to wait until the season was, out of our grasp to make a quarterback change, knowing that it wasn't the only issue that this offense is experiencing. Like, you don't score 10 offensive touchdowns in 12 games. You don't commit the same penalties week in, week out. You're not horrible on third downs. You're not ineffective in the running game to where you can't even get it going at all because of one player, one person. This goes for just Nathaniel Hackett or just Zach Wilson or just Tim Boyle, whoever it is. This Jets offense has a myriad of different problems. Tons of issues, which ultimately to me falls back on Joe Douglas. Because, if you want to defend the Jets coaching staff, Hackett, Saleh, you can say they can only play who's on the roster. They can't go out and start Joe Flacco because he's not on the roster. They can't go out and start Gardner Minshew, who looks pretty good. They can't go out and start Josh Dobbs, even though he had a really rough game last week against, I think it was the Bears. It is what it is. He would still give the Jets a better chance to win than the 3 that are on the Jets roster. Saleh can't give those guys the starting nod because Joe Douglas is not signing anybody. This goes for offensive line as well. Lyle Collins is still out on the open market. What position does he play? Right tackle. Where do the Jets have the most struggles on this offensive line? The right side. This goes for some of the questionable, some of the disappointing free agent acquisitions, to quickly skim through the list. Allen Lazard, objectively disappointing. Dalvin Cook, objectively disappointing. CJ Uzomah, objectively disappointing. Dwayne Brown, not playing. Billy Turner, out for the season. Not really Joe Douglas' fault, but it's not like Billy Turner was like a top 20, top 25 tackle, in football. Who else? Randall Cobb doesn't play, healthy scratch. McCole Hardman brought in this offseason, traded before the trade deadline for a 2025, Hardman and a 7th round pick going to the Chiefs for a 2025 6th rounder. Tim Boyle, ineffective. Doesn't really look like Trevor Siemian's going to be given a real opportunity. So again, if you want to back the coaches and, if you are wanting to back Saleh and back Hackett, you can say, well, who do they have at quarterback, right? Like, they can't really make any offensive line adjustments because the general manager is not supplying them with the necessary talent. Flacco did not sign a deal with the Cleveland Browns worth $15 million, $20 million. He was out there this entire time. We have proof that Saleh loves Joe Flacco. He called him a starting quarterback. So again, my problem isn't necessarily with Zach himself or Tim Boyle himself. Like, it is what it is. We know who these guys are. Zach obviously still has an upside, and maybe if he lands with a different team, maybe something, blossoms there. Maybe it's, a few years from now, like a Geno Smith situation. Who knows? Maybe it doesn't work out. I'm not sure at this point with Zach's career, but the point is, I have an issue with the Jets just not having some, it just seems like they're clueless and they're just they're guessing to fix the problem. You could talk about like guessing on a test, right? Back in school, I guess on a test, oh, you managed to pass, right? Get a C, get a B, whatever it is. Do you actually know the material? Like, sweet, you passed, right? You can just focus on the next test, right? But did you actually learn the material? Now, it's like, for me, it's like, okay, it's one thing to, compare the Jets situation to just like a test in school, but this is a billion-dollar organization being ran by people that are getting paid millions of dollars to actually understand and fix these issues, alleviate these issues, create solutions. But the Jets right now have way too many question marks, not enough answers, and it doesn't seem like there's any answers at all offensively. Defensively, I'm totally fine. Special teams, I'm totally fine. No issues there. But offensively, it's like we're so far behind the eight ball, so far behind the, if we go back to Zach Wilson, is everything going to change? Is the offensive line going to start looking better? Are receivers going to start catching passes? Are the play calls going to be better? Is the game plan going to be better throughout the week? No, probably not. What's that going to do to Zach's confidence? Like if you just throw him right back into the starting lineup, it just looks embarrassing. Like optically, it's like admitting that they don't know what they're doing. Like that they're just trying new stuff. Well, I guess we'll do this. Hopefully it works. Like as an NFL coach, you want, like a solidified approach. You want to have trust in your coaches that they know what they're doing. Because if you don't have that player-coach relationship, how do you trust any decision that they make moving forward? Think about if the Jets, let's just use next year as an example, because this year it's too far gone, but let's use next year. Aaron Rodgers comes back and the Jets make the playoffs. Do you, things look good, but do you trust Salah do you trust Hackett in a playoff game against, Baltimore? In Baltimore, it's freezing out. Do you trust them to make the right adjustments? Or is it just, let's just pour all of our faith, put everything on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders, player decisions, personnel decisions, game planning, all these different things, because that's what it seems right now. It seems like Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, Nathaniel Hackett, they are relying way too much on what Rodgers has to say and how he wants to operate the franchise. And again, I have no problems with Aaron Rodgers. He's a future first ballot Hall of Famer for a reason. But what does that say about the general manager of your football team, your head coach of the football team, the offensive coordinator of the football team, if every single decision is on hold or on standby, and we can't make a single move, we can't have any sort of success offensively if the future first ballot Hall of Famer is not taking snaps? Like Rodgers will be fine with whoever, whatever offensive coordinator you plug in for the Jets. Rodgers will be fine. He will work it out. He is that good. He's not going to the Hall of Fame because of Nathaniel Hackett. He's not. He is elite. And it just kind of seems like, hey, Rodgers got hurt in week 1. It's a tough break. I understand that it's a tough break. I completely do. But again, if you read between the lines, what does it say about the people running the organization, Douglas, Hackett, Saleh, if the offense is unwatchable without the future first ballot Hall of Famer? It based off of what we've seen this season, in regards to Saleh and Douglas these past couple of seasons, failing to reach 500, it's not a good look. It's not a look that is going to, spark a lot of fire, spark a lot of trust in players to want to come and play here. There was a bunch of weird situations in the offseason too, where like a player would have a workout with the Jets the next day, and then the day before they would go out and sign a contract with another team, or they were this close about missing on a player. The Jets were like in on talks, they were deep in talks, and then it doesn't work out. Just kind of strange stuff like that. And I want to do a separate video on this topic, but listening to Saul in these press conferences and kind of hearing these slips that he'll say, like the pleading the fifth thing, smiling in the press conference yesterday after a humiliating loss. I'll have a better answer for you tomorrow. The whole quarterback dilemma. Like, Oh, and there was another comment about Zach Wilson, like Salah voicing, his thoughts on the Wilson decision to Douglas. It kind of makes you think, are these guys really in lockstep, right? Do they have a close relationship like it's being displayed or being like marketed or, displayed to everybody on the outside? Because there's been a couple of weird comments here where it makes you think, is Salah pounding on the table like, get me a certain player, or let's be proactive for once this season, and can we add to the offensive line? Can we maybe add a quarterback? Because it does not take a rocket scientist to add a quarterback. Literally everybody was saying when Rodgers goes down, add a quarterback the next day. There were tons of them out there. And by the way, this was before the NFL trade deadline. So Teddy Bridgewater comes into play. Jameis Winston comes into play. Jacoby Brissett comes into play. All these different guys come into play. And, it's radio silence. Not even a workout. Like, if you're playing Madden, if your, quarterback goes down, we have an open roster spot. We don't even have to really like the quarterback that we're bringing in, but let's just, for like insurance policy purposes, let's just go get somebody who could, spin a football and, that's maybe had some experience that could help Zach these next couple of weeks if the plan is to play him, and see how it goes. Like that's just logical. It just makes sense. You're down a roster spot anyway. Just go add somebody that, whether it's a trade or, whatever the case may be, just go fill that void. And it wasn't for weeks. So is Salah and Douglas, are these guys on the same page? I don't know, but I'm going to do a separate video on that. Because that's kind of bothering me. But anyway, are the Jets going to go back to Zach? Are they going to give Trevor a shot? Are they going to stick with Tim Boyle? I really don't know how you can stick with Tim Boyle after what we've seen. But again, this is not going to be a one-player fix, a one-person fix. It's not. Maybe Wilson comes in and looks pretty good. That's great. But will that translate week to week? Will the offensive line look better? Can we start running the football? Will the play calls get better? Will players, keep dropping? Like all these different things. So I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, go Jets.